Okay, sit yourself onto your left and come into a good cross-legged position. Just sit yourself evenly on both seat bones, just have a little wriggle about, just make sure that you're sitting evenly. Hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest and draw your shoulders down away from your ears. Look down at the floor, look at something that isn't moving, and focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. And just observe the feeling of the body as you inhale. Fill in the lungs with the energy of the universe. So allowing the chest to expand with the in-breath. And allowing the chest to lower and relax with the out-breath. Release your hands, bring your hands into Namaste. Push the palms firmly together, lengthen from your armpits into your elbows, the elbows into the heels of the hands into the fingertips. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Inhaling into the armpit chest, as well as into the front chest. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Hold on to that feeling of abundance in the heart area as you release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, bringing the tip of the index finger in contact with the tip of the thumb, just a gesture of wisdom and intelligence and peacefulness that we can carry through into our practice. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open. hold onto your knees, elevate the heart area upwards, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across. Just feeling how your body responds to the turn. Just acknowledging the even balance of the seat bones. And if they're not even, then adjust the position of the torso between the two hips to balance it out. And then come back to the center. Hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen from the right to the left. Just waking up the spine, waking up the organs around the spine and the muscles and the flesh and the skin. And then come back to the center. Just come onto your knees. Have your hands as wide apart as your mat. Spreading your fingers, spreading your palms. When you go up into dog down, if you're not doing dog down, do dandasana. You can have a belt around your feet for dandasana if you're doing dandasana. Otherwise, push the hands into the floor and then just come up into dog down. So whether you're doing dandasana or dog down, activate the legs. Draw the kneecap through to the back of the knee. Lift the kneecap up towards the thigh. Activate the thigh muscles. Take deep inhalations. Deep, soothing inhalations and exhalations. Turning the fronts of the thighs inwards. Broadening the backs of the thighs outwards. Lifting the seat bones, lifting the tailbone. Breathing even and deep inhalations and exhalations. Just let your head hang down. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, keeping the palms of the hands pressing deeply into the floor. Keeping the breath deep and regular. And then step your feet forwards, come up into a standing position, and then have the blocks for your hands. So for hastasana, just coming up into your feet, turning your toes inwards, tightening the kneecaps, lifting up into the chest. Just observe where your balance is in your feet. Just let your legs hip forwards so that your weight goes into your toes. So that feels kind of comforting, yet strangely unbalanced. like you can easily kind of almost fall forwards. So then tighten the kneecaps and hit your shins back so that you can feel your weight consciously drawing away from the toes and down into the heels. When you've found the weight in your heels, then tighten the kneecaps a little more, turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, lifting the inner knees up towards the groin. Squeeze the shoulders, the elbows towards each other behind you, squeezing the shoulder blades. And then keep the action of the legs as you come forwards, hinging at the hips, keeping the front chest entirely extended. And then have the fingertips on the blocks, extending the chin and the chest forwards, pushing the kneecaps into the sockets, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, keeping your weight in your heels. So just observe where your weight is. If there's lots of weight in your fingers or in your hands, then it's very likely that your weight isn't in your heels. Just push your legs forwards so that your weight goes into your hands. So that becomes toe centric, doesn't it? Hit the shins back so that your weight goes back into your heels and it becomes lighter on your fingers. Be on fingertips rather than heels of hands. Project the chin and the chest forward, lengthening the chin and the chest forward. If you can go down lower, then do. Listen to the breath. Listen to the in-breath and the out-breath. If you can reach down to the floor without losing the action of the legs or the spine, then reach down to the floor. If you can reach around the backs of your heels and draw the front body in without causing any tension in your back, then do. Listen to the breath. Listening to the in-breath and the out-breath, turning the thighs inwards, lifting the thighs up towards the hip socket. So the fronts of the thighs especially, turning them in so that you can turn the backs of the thighs outwards, so that you can lift the seat bones more effectively, lift the tailbone more effectively. Bring your hands into your hips, bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come up into Tadasana. Just be in Tadasana. Have the inner edge of the feet together, spreading the toes. Listen to the breath as it enters and as it exits, lifting the heart area up to the ceiling. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump your feet wide apart for trikonasana. Turn your left toes in a little and your right leg and foot all the way out. Spread in the toes. Bring the hips to face the front, lift up into the chest. Stamp the big toe really firmly into the floor. Stretch the little toes out to the side. And from the big toe, you can lengthen up into the heart area much more efficiently. So really stamp the big toe of that left foot into the floor and feel how that translates into the chest. Come over to the side with your hands on your hips, keeping the sides of the torso even in length. So you don't shrink on that right side. Turn the chest, rotate that top shoulder towards the back of the room, and then reach down and find the shin. Turn the abdomen to the ceiling, breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, and then reach up. Just feel how it feels for your body this morning. So have you shrunk in this right side? If you have, then push the thigh, this thigh all down to the floor. Push this armpit away from the thigh. See if you can really lengthen that right side of the torso. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just feel the pose from the inside. Feel where the feet are, feel where the hips are, feel where the torso is. Come back to the center. Just swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, and the left leg and foot all the way out. And then bring the hands back onto the hips. And again, as we come over, I'm going to keep the hands on the hips and try and keep this left side long. Stamp that right big toe really firmly into the floor and the other big toe into the floor, and then feel how that gives you lift up into the heart area. Spread in the toes, but stamp in the big toe consciously into the floor. Come over to the side. Maintaining that length in the left side of the torso. Turn in the chest. Just feel where the body is in 3 dimensions. Are the hips in line with the feet? Can you feel where the body is like you normally can? Or does it feel different this morning? So I'm a little tired this morning because didn't sleep brilliantly. So I can feel that my bodily consciousness is not as fine-tuned as it often is. It feels a little dull. I can feel where the hips are, I can feel where the feet are, but gauging exactly where they are in relation to each other doesn't feel quite so precise this morning. That's just something to observe rather than to judge oneself about. Come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together and just be in Tadasana. Just observe the energy you have released through your practice so far. So we often think if one day is maybe we're not as on it as others, then we kind of castigate ourselves. We shouldn't. We should just acknowledge it and then accommodate it. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Because often when that consciousness of one thing goes, something else takes its place. So it's looking out for whatever that other thing may be. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Stretch your arms out in front, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, don't worry about cracks and pops, and then raise your arms over your head. Maybe you can feel your balance feels different this morning than other mornings. Maybe it's really crisp and precise. Maybe not as much as normal. Maybe it's as normal. Just observe it without judgment. Just acknowledge it. Release your hands, swap the interlock of the fingers, turn the palms of the hands all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head. Breathe into the armpit chest. Listen to the breath. And then release your arms and then come back into Tadasana. Just breathing even deep inhalations and exhalations. Get a couple of blocks for your hands. Put it on the right side of your mat where you can reach them. Make sure you're not going to jump on them though. And then come back into Tadasana. So we're going to go into parsvottanasana. So lift up into the chest. Excuse me. Lift up into the chest, bring your arms out nice and wide, and then step or jump the feet apart. I might sneeze again, so excuse me if I do. Excuse me. Hopefully that's done now. Turn your left toes in really steeply, and then rotate on the right foot. And then pick up the back heel and turn the back heel out all the way if you can, and then observe how that helps you to bring your hips into alignment. Have your hands on your hips, and then really activate that back leg. Stamp the big toe of that back leg firmly into the floor and feel how that relates into the heart area. Turn the fronts of the thighs of both legs inwards really consciously, so that the back of the thigh feels like it broadens outwards. Lift up into the chest, and then keeping the legs straight, come forwards and hinge at the hips. Keep the back straight. So at this stage then you can observe, well, where are your hips? Are they level? Is that back leg hip higher than the front leg hip? Just see where your body is in 3 dimensions. Keep that back, big toe stamping into the floor, stretching the toes, spreading the toes of that back foot, stretching into the heel, turning the fronts of the thighs inwards, projecting the chin and the chest forwards like you're doing Uttanasana. If you can go down lower, then do, but never at the expense of bending the legs or turning or losing the extension of the spine. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose if you can. Bring the hands onto the floor, but again, never at the expense of rounding the back like this or bending the knees. Keeping the spine extending forwards. And then if you can, perhaps walk your hands back towards the leg behind you. Keeping the chest along the straight leg, turning that thigh inwards. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Filling the lungs, keeping the head lifted, but trying to draw the chest along that straight leg if you can. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then bring the hands either side of the foot. Bend that front leg, step forwards with the back leg, and then come up into Tadasana. Just put the blocks into the other side and then come back into Tadasana. Just observe feeling of the pose, feeling of the physical body. Just listening to the sound of the breath. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump your feet apart. And then turn the right toes in as steeply as you can. Rotate on the other leg. And then pick up the heel. Turn that heel all the way out. Spread your toes. Bring your hips level. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards. Activate the kneecaps on both legs, not just that back leg. Stamp the big toe of that back foot into the floor and then lift up into the heart area. Maybe this side feels different. Maybe it feels more connected, maybe not. Come forwards, hinging at the hips. And then reach down and find the blocks. So just starting off on the blocks is just a good place to go at the beginning, because it gives you space in the spine. It gives you extension in the spine. If you go straight to the floor, of course it's possible, entirely possible, to come down and maintain that extension. But it's not always easy to do. Using the blocks gives you the opportunity to just adjust when you're there before you come all the way down. So turn the fronts of the thighs in. Feel that the hips are level. Just reach up behind you and just feel that they're level. And then if you can, just walk in your legs back, your hand back to your leg, sorry. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Keeping that back leg deeply activated. Bring your hands forwards, stretching the chin and the chest forwards. Bend that front leg, hop in with the back leg, and then come back up into Tadasana. Listen to the breath. Focus on the inhalation and the exhalation, just observing the feeling in the legs. And then come down onto your knees. Just sit back on your heels a moment. Press the toes into the floor. Press the tops of the feet into the floor. Press the shins into the ground. Lift up into the chest. And then come forward, hinging at the hips. Wriggling into the heels. And then come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Keeping the seat bones down on the heels. Maybe using a block for underneath your head in order to maintain that lift of the chest. Sometimes when we bring the chest down too quickly, we lose the extension. Lose the extension of the front chest. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Just sit back on your heels for a moment. Just observe the body as you grow out of the toes into the knees, into the hips, into the chest, into the head. Just breathing that energy of lightness into the legs, into the chest, into the arms, into the head. And then come into cross legs. So we're going to do sukhasana. Have a couple of blocks either side of the hip, one either side of the hips, if you've got them, or just one, and then you can swap it over. Just sit yourself in cross legs or half padmasana, whichever is better for you. If you struggle to lift the chest, if you kind of sink in the spine, then sit on a lift, sit on a folded blanket. Otherwise, just directly on the floor, lifting up into the heart area, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just focusing on breathing evenly, breathing into the armpit chest. And then reach underneath the right knee, have the block underneath the right elbow. Have that elbow directly underneath the shoulder, so not closer to the body, not further away. Have this real sense of structure, this shoulder and elbow alignment, and then bring your hand onto your hip. So at first, all of your weight has probably rolled onto that right seat bone. So lengthen that left, so push the right elbow into the block, and then really lengthen that left seat bone away from the right elbow, so that then you can lengthen from there to there, and then from there to there, from there to there, and in the opposite direction at the same time. Try and keep that left seat bone level. Turn the chest to face the ceiling. Reach up and over, just stretching out that left side of the body. But the more you push that left buttock bone into the floor, the more effective that stretch will become. Look up, look underneath the armpit, and maybe your sinus is clear just because of the position of the head. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Pushing that left seat bone firmly down into the floor. And then come back to the center. Hold on to your knees, lift up into the chest. Just observe the feeling of the chest, the probably uneven feeling of the chest. And then bring the left hand underneath the knee, bringing the left elbow onto the block, underneath the shoulder. Have your right hand on your hip for a second. Push that left elbow really firmly into the block so that you lengthen across and into that right seat bone. Turn the chest, turn the top shoulder, and then reach up and over. Just breathing in and out through the nose. Keeping that right seat bone firmly onto the floor by pushing the left elbow into the floor, lengthening that right seat bone away from the left elbow, turning the chest, looking up, breathing in and out through the nose. And then gently come back to the center, hold onto your knees. Lift up into your chest. Just to acknowledge the lightness of the sides of the ribs. Just listening to the breath. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And from there, bring your feet wide apart. So spread the legs wide, and then just feel that you can roll the legs inwards. Tighten the kneecaps, hit the thigh muscles into the bone and pull the thigh muscles up into the hip socket. Have your hands behind you, have the blocks in front, have the hands behind you, lift up into the chest. Try and roll onto the front edge of the seat bone. Upavistha, konasana. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Bring your hands forwards. Now, if you've got a bad back and forward bending aggravates it, then just keep the hands at the sides of the hips and then elevate the heart area upwards. Just stay in this upright position, working to turn the legs inwards, the shins inwards, the inner knees down towards the floor, keeping the chest lifted, staying on the front edge of the seat bone. Otherwise, you're going to bring the hands onto the blocks and then just a little bit at a time, come forwards. Just feel that stretch of the insides of the legs. It's a really good stretch. So just press your hands onto the blocks and lift the chest. Just a little bit at a time, just inching yourself forwards, just acknowledging how it is feeling for your back, lifting up into the heart area. So just a little at a time, pressing the hands into the floor, lifting up into the heart area, breathing evenly, listening to the breath, in through the nose and out through the nose. Focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. And then gently walk the hands back. Have the hands behind the hips or to the sides of the hips more precisely, and then lift out of the chest. Breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then just bring your hands into the backs of the knees and then bring the feet in towards each other, and then keep the feet on the floor and then kind of push your seat bones towards your heels a little, and then get hold of the big toes and then lift the heart area. Maybe if you're sitting on a lift, then if you find that you can't lift the chest, if you kind of round the back, if you sink the chest like this, then sit on a folded blanket. Maybe in that case, use a belt around the feet and hold on to that. Otherwise, just lift up into the chest, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Just breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. Pushing the heels together, lifting up into the heart area. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. And then just bring the legs into swastikasana or into half padmasana, whichever is most doable for you. Again, sit on a lift if you find that you sink in the chest. Just hold onto your knees, just feel how the seat bones connect to the ground. Try and find levelness. Maybe roll over, move the buttock flesh out to the side a little. Lift up into the heart area. Drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the left side, drawing your abdomen across, your ribs and your shoulders, drawing the abdomen across the ribs and the shoulders. Soften the jaw and the tongue and the throat. And then come back to the centre, hold on to your knees, lift up into the chest. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the left. And then come back to the centre. Come down onto your back, and we're going to go into setubandha. If you're not doing setubandha this morning, then you can do restorative setubandha. Or restorative bridge pose, where you have the bolster underneath your back, and then you just rest like this. Or you can do supta, baddha or viparita karani, whichever feels like it's best for you this morning. So if you're doing setubandha, pull your feet close to your seat bones, keep your head on the floor, and then lift the seat bones up towards the ceiling. Then at some stage you'll get stuck a little, so just gather the shoulder blades together, come right onto the tops of the shoulders, and then place the brick in the tailbone region, in the tailbone sacrum region, so that the pelvis becomes well supported by the block. It's surprisingly comfortable if you find the right place. So if it's not comfortable, then chances are you haven't found the right position. So it shouldn't be right on the tailbone. The sacrum should be sitting on the block. And then get hold of the edges of the mat. Turning the crease of the elbows out to face the sides of the room. Really coming onto the tops of the shoulders. Lifting the chest. So you can either stay with your knees bent, or you can stretch one leg away. Just see how that feels. Bring it back, stretch the other leg away, stretching that heel along the floor. Feel how that feels. If it feels like it's okay for your back, then you can stretch both legs away. So you get this tremendous opening in the front of the hip, which is a really difficult place to penetrate into. In setubandha, you get a really good opening in the front of the groin, the area where the leg meets the torso. Keep the legs activated in tadasana, turning the thighs inwards. So listen to the breath as it enters and as it exits. So if you don't want to stay with straight legs, if it's difficult on your back, then you can just bend your knees, but just stay with the block underneath you. So my back has been playing up for the last month or so, but it's getting better. And so setubandha, I'm really grateful to be able to get back into setubandha with the legs straight, but I'm not going to stay for too long in that stage. It's still a little bit of a strain, or at least I can feel it moving towards that. So just enjoying the inversion with bent knees is just as effective. You just don't get that front groin stretch when you bend your knees. Just listen to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits, focusing on long, slow, deep and deliberate breaths. Push your feet into the floor, lift the seat bones, remove the block out of the way, adjust your shoulders as you guide yourself back down onto the floor. Stay with the knees together, the feet apart for a moment, just resting down into the ground. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. Maybe get hold of the feet and do the happy baby, just rocking from side to side, just easing out any tensions in your back. And then roll into a seated position, and then just get the folded blanket for your head. Just lay yourself in a really good straight line right down the centre of your mat. If you're wearing glasses, it's good to take them off just for the last couple of minutes. And then just allow yourself to release into the ground. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Just allowing the body to release into the ground. Unhook the muscles of the arms and the legs, so that the body becomes heavy on the ground. And then out of that heaviness, perhaps you acknowledge an energetic lightness that radiates from the bones and into the muscles. And into the organs. Into the flesh and the skin. Using your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of lightness down into the toes, into the fingers and up into the top of the head. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. Just bring yourself back into this pose of shavasana. Bend your knees in toward your chest, just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll over onto your right side. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just a final crossed legs with your hands in the masti. Final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Just spend a moment to seek to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then as you release your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards, connecting the tip of the index finger with the tip of the thumb, just a gesture of wisdom and peacefulness that we can carry with us into our day. And then as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. So hopefully you feel as though you really did your energy and give yourself good positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.